Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, anyways, man, I just thought that I would have one final conversation. At least this should be the final conversation, unless something else comes up about it. But this is going to be my final breakdown. This is going to be my final conversation about Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury until probably the fight happens. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to give my fight review the day of, the fight happens because it'll be pretty decently late, or if I'll be able to do it the day after. I'm not necessarily sure. But this fight really interests me. And the reason why this fight interests me is because Deontay Wilder, he has quite the fan base when it comes down to it. In fact, I believe that he has quite the deluded fan base, in my opinion. Now, of course, ever since the rematch had happened and ever since Tyson Fury really put an ass whooping on Deontay Wilder, of course, we've heard a certain amount of his fans allege that, he was drugged or the suit was too heavy or all sort of bullshit. Tyson Fury had an egg weight in there. He removed padding from the gloves. I've never been a believer in any of that. Now, I believe maybe at one point in time, Tyson Fury may have been on PEDs, but that's a completely different situation. There's a big difference between messing with your gloves and possibly being on PEDs. And, a lot of these fighters in general, I believe, could possibly be on PEDs anyway. But, I can't prove that without, 100, with 100% certainty. But that's just my personal opinion anyway. But it is what it is. Anyways, getting to the point when it comes down to it, there's a lot at stake when it comes down to it for both men in this fight. But there's really so much more at stake, in my opinion, for Deontay Wilder. And Deontay Wilder, I know with the certain things that maybe I've said about him and I've certainly said about his fan base, it may seem like I hate Deontay Wilder. But I don't really hate any of these fighters. I don't really hate any of these athletes. I have a great amount of respect for all of them, especially for boxers and fighters in general, because it takes a great amount of courage to step into the ring. That means that really, even though I've never really been a big fan of the saying, I guess in certain terms, when you do step inside the boxing ring, you may have to be a little bit willing to die, because certain people overall, when they do step into that ring, they may never come out they may never come out the same again. In fact, they may never come out alive. There are certain fighters in certain fights, of course, where they have been killed. So it is what it is. This is a sport certainly where you can get killed if your trainer overall does not throw in the towel, or even if you get hit by the right punch. So it is what it is. But this fight overall is very, very interesting to me because I want to see how Deontay Wilder looks in this fight. I want to see how he reacts to Tyson Fury. Now, in my opinion, I believe that Tyson Fury more than likely is going to win the third fight. I think all in all that Tyson Fury, that he is just way too skilled for Deontay Wilder. I think that he personally just has Deontay Wilder's number. But I'm going to be very interested to see how Deontay Wilder reacts, because this is going to be the biggest test, not only of his career, this is probably going to be the biggest test of Deontay Wilder's life. For, I think, overall the first time in his boxing career at least, this is the first time where Deontay Wilder, his back is really, 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 really up against the wall. Because if he does not win this fight, I'm not going to necessarily say that his career is over, because he could still have a fight with, say, Anthony Joshua or a lot of those other heavyweight contenders out there like Dillian White, Andrew Ruiz, Povetkin if he's still around, and a couple of the others. But Deontay Wilder knows that this is going to be the biggest fight of his career, and that if he does not win this fight, it is going to be very, very damaging to his image. It is going to be very damaging towards his legacy. And, like I said, a certain amount of people, they allege that Deontay Wilder had got cheated. But I don't think that as many people believe that as they're trying to say. And the people that really do believe that, they either A, really don't know that much about boxing, or B, are not really overly intelligent. Probably a little bit of both. But when it comes down to the overall, I don't believe that Deontay Wilder, even though I think that he has been very, very deluded in the past, I don't think that he truly believes that he got cheated. And there's so many signs overall that are telling me that Deontay Wilder, that, his fans are really talking for him, as they really have been ever since, he lost that second fight. But when it comes down to it, his fans, a lot of the channels out there, Aki TV, Boxing Ego, Dante's Boxing Nation, they've been trying to talk Deontay Wilder up. And they've been trying to say, well, Deontay Wilder, he looks great in training, and if he implements everything that he shows in sparring, there's no way that Tyson Fury can win this fight, and he's not going to have his magical gloves. And I hate to tell people this, but Tyson Fury never had any magical gloves. He never had any magical gloves. Tyson Fury, once again, I'll say this again, Tyson Fury is not a one-punch knockout artist, but that does not mean that he cannot hurt you with one solid good punch. There are certain fighters out there that, once again, they're not one-punch knockout artists, but they can hurt you with just one good shot. Take a look at Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, he's not necessarily someone that, with the average A-grade fighter that he faces, he's not always necessarily going to knock you out with just one shot. But take a look at that one shot that he landed against Billy Joe Saunders. Now, Tyson Fury, I don't even think that he has the punching power of a Canelo Alvarez, because Canelo Alvarez, in my opinion, for his weight class, if you were, say, going to rank Gennady Golovkin's or Artur Beterbievr's power at their peak, if you were going to rank their punching power, let's say at an A+, I would say maybe Canelo Alvarez's punching power could be either at an A or an A-. Tyson Fury's punching power is probably at a solid B+. Some may even rank it at an A-. It's around there somewhere, but I would say that Tyson Fury's power is at least naturally a solid B+, could even be an A-. But it's not impossible to hurt Deontay Wilder. And Tyson Fury, even though many people have tried to spread the narrative, Tyson Fury has never been a bad puncher. For about 31 fights in his career, he has about 22 knockouts in his career. Tyson Fury is not just some Paulie Malignaggi. People try to act like this dude doesn't even have a 50% knockout ratio in his career when that's absolutely false. But here's the thing. I'm going to be very interested to see how Deontay Wilder reacts in this fight, because I don't think Deontay Wilder thinks that he got cheated. I think that he's trying to say that overall for his fan base, and I think he's trying to say that overall because I think he wants to believe that he got cheated. I think he wants to believe overall that the suit was too heavy, or overall that he got drugged. I think that he wants to believe overall that that happened, but Deontay Wilder is going to have to face his demons eventually. And if he is going to beat Tyson Fury, now he is working on certain adjustments in camp, and I think that that is a very, very great thing. I think that him and Malik Scott, they've been friends for a very, very long time. That's why Malik Scott took that dive in that fight, but that's that's neither here nor there, but we'll talk about that another time. But when it comes down to the overall bottom line is this: when it comes down to it, Deontay Wilder is going to have to face his demons in this fight. And for really any of us, that is really the hardest thing to do when it comes down to it. Deontay Wilder, when he gets in that ring with Tyson Fury, I think a certain amount of people, they believe overall that Deontay Wilder, that he's just going to go in there and whoop the shit out of Tyson Fury. And I just don't see that. Not only A, because I don't think Deontay Wilder, even with the adjustments that he's trying to make, I don't know if he'll have the boxing ability. But B, getting your ass whooped the way that you did in that second match against a boxer like Tyson Fury, and just stepping into the ring with him again for your next fight, even with there being about 1.5 years separation, that is a big, 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 big step for you to try to beat. That is a huge mountain. That is basically, you really can't get any bigger of a mountain than that. That is really Mount Everest that you have to climb. And like I said, if Deontay Wilder, if he were able to come back in this fight, and if he were able to, I don't really necessarily see him outboxing Tyson Fury per se, but if he were able to, put enough new tactics in there to the point to where he could win some rounds, and on top of that, knock out Tyson Fury, because let's be real, if this fight goes to decision, we all know who more than likely it's probably going to go to, and it probably is not going to be Deontay Wilder, because I don't care how many adjustments Deontay Wilder makes. I don't care how hard he trains. Within 1.5 years, I don't think that you're just going to outbox someone like a Tyson Fury, someone who has very fast hands, someone who has very fast feet, very good head movement, very good defense, and on top of that, can hurt you with a solid shot. Once again, that does not mean that he's a one-shot knockout puncher, but that does mean that he can hurt you. Okay? It is what it is. It's very similar to Andre Ward. Andre Ward, and I think Tyson, for his weight class, has more natural power than what Andre Ward did for his. Andre Ward was a very similar fighter. Floyd Mayweather is a very similar fighter as well. A lot of people love to say that these guys don't have any power, but if they hit you with a solid shot, they can hurt you. That's why no one is going to walk through their punches. Just like nobody, including Deontay Wilder in the rematch against Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, he was not walking through Tyson Fury's punches. He was backing up even before Tyson Fury had landed anything clearly, because he knew that Tyson Fury had the ability to hurt him. He saw that from the first fight. So it is what it is. So for those people saying overall that, oh, all of a sudden Tyson Fury had this power out of nowhere, well, Deontay Wilder obviously thought that it certainly wasn't out of nowhere, because why the hell would you start backing up automatically as soon as Tyson Fury comes towards you? Because if we were to watch a person that really, really can't punch, or really does not sit down on his punches very, very well, we can take a look at someone like a Paulie Malignaggi. Now, how many opponents during Paulie Malignaggi's career did we see basically try to walk through his punches? Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto, Amir Khan, Danny Garcia, pretty much every elite opponent that he ever fought. But when it comes down to Tyson Fury, you don't see any of those guys try to walk through his punches, because Tyson Fury, he can punch. There's never been a fighter besides maybe Otto von Lien that I've ever really seen try to walk through Tyson Fury's punches. So it is what it is. And that's kind of my point here. Deontay Wilder, he can basically say this shit to where Tyson Fury, he can't hurt me and all this other stuff. He does not truly believe that. And I think that that is going to show in his fighting style. In this fight, I believe that Deontay Wilder, I personally believe that more than likely, he probably is going to be on the back foot once more. And I think Tyson Fury, he probably is going to charge Deontay Wilder. I think perhaps that we might see a little bit of a difference in terms of strategy from Tyson Fury. I think all in all that maybe Deontay Wilder, who the hell knows, maybe he'll pressure him a little bit more because he may have to. But this is going to be a very uphill battle for Deontay Wilder. Once again, I've never seen, whether it be in boxing or MMA, I've never seen someone basically have a fight with someone and one of the guys or one of the opponents gets ragdolled, and then in the rematch, that opponent just looks 100% different, or they completely ragdoll that opponent. For that to happen, either, in the first fight, there had to have been some competitive moments, which there really was none in the second fight, or B, when it comes down to it, the fighter did not put his best foot forward. And I think, I think Deontay Wilder in that second fight, I think he took it very, very seriously. But I do think all in all that he did fight very one-dimensionally, because Deontay Wilder, for the majority of his career, he's been a one-trick pony. But, the big question is this: can Deontay Wilder, because he is a great athlete, can Deontay Wilder gain enough skills and also gain enough confidence to knock out someone like a Tyson Fury? Because he's not going to be able to outbox him. I just don't see that, happening when it comes down to it. Is Deontay Wilder, is he going to be able to face his demons in this fight? Will he be able to climb Mount Everest? Because that's what he is going to have to do in this fight. This is not even just a mountain. It is Mount Everest for Deontay Wilder. This is, a lot of people, they're saying that all the pressure is on Tyson Fury. No, I'm not saying that, there's always pressure on you when you're a fighter, no matter how great you are or no matter how many times you've won against that fighter. You always have to respect your opponent. But when it comes down to it, all the pressure right now is on Deontay Wilder. Just like if Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua, just like if they were to have a rematch, I'm not saying that some of the pressure would not be on Alexander Usyk, but because of how big of a star Anthony Joshua is, there is a lot of pressure on Anthony Joshua right now. Just like there was a tremendous amount of pressure also from the LDBC and new media on Anthony Joshua, to beat Andy Ruiz. And many of them were rooting for Anthony Joshua to get beat. It is what it is. There is a tremendous amount of pressure from for Deontay Wilder in this fight, because most people, including me, thought that he really lost both fights to Tyson Fury. So he is going to have to adapt. What do I personally think he is going to have to do? I think all in all that he will have to attack the body early. I think that he'll have to jab towards the body, and I think that he'll have to go towards that right hand. He'll then have to move out of the way. He'll have to use his feet a lot in this fight, and hope that Tyson Fury, maybe that he underestimates him a little bit here and there, or that maybe his feet can be faster than Tyson Fury's. But I just don't know if that's going to be possible, because Tyson Fury, he naturally has decently quick feet for his size. Deontay Wilder has always had very clunky footwork. He's never really had that good of balance. He does not have great head movement. He does not have that good of defense. And, sometimes when fighters or certain people, sometimes when they're backed in a corner, they revert back to their old ways. And I really need to see Deontay Wilder. I need to see how he looks. So we'll see what happens. And once again, a certain amount of the people that are saying overall that Deontay Wilder got cheated. You know how I know Deontay Wilder does not believe that? You know how I know that he does not believe in any of these bullshit excuses? Because A, apparently he's wearing another costume or another suit overall, so that was another excuse that he made that obviously he does not believe. And B, Malik Scott overall just talked, I believe, to an interviewer. I'm not necessarily sure who it was, but when they asked them, what do you plan to do for the precautions of the gloves? What do you plan to do overall to check the gloves? They did not give really any clear answers. All they said was that JD's is going to be the one that checks the gloves. Or I shouldn't say they didn't give clear answers, because they gave a clear answer, but they really had no different way to check the gloves, which tells me that last time they also checked the gloves and there was just nothing wrong with them. So it is what it is. And my question is this. Once again, if Deontay Wilder truly believed that he got cheated, why would you just fire Mark Breland? Why wouldn't you also fire JD's? Because if Tyson Fury's gloves were all fucked up, wouldn't JD's be the one responsible for that? Wouldn't he be the one responsible for that? You know? But apparently not. You know, and they can't go with that. They can't ask a question like that, because that would make them and Deontay Wilder look absolutely stupid. So it is what it is. But why the hell would you have JD's be the only one that checks the gloves again this time? Especially, you know, when Tyson Fury is wrapping his hands. Shouldn't Malik Scott be there as well? But Malik Scott, he basically gave a half-assed answer and said, oh yeah, you know, don't worry, we're going to check the gloves. Don't worry. He basically said that JD's, he's going to be checking the gloves when they're in the locker room, and overall I'm going to check the gloves and another person's going to check the gloves. Well, why would you trust JD's? If apparently 100% you got cheated, this is what I'm saying. Deontay Wilder does not truly believe that he got cheated. He does not believe that he got cheated. And I'm telling you, if Tyson Fury charges towards Deontay Wilder is either going to do one of two things. He's either A, going to be very, very aggressive, just like Conor McGregor was in the beginning of the Dustin Poirier trilogy that just recently happened, you know, I believe all the way back in July. Or B, he's going to be very tentative to throw, and when it comes down to it, he's going to be on the back foot, and he's going to try to counter Tyson Fury, and he's going to try to hide it. But that's going to be a very, very risky move, because Tyson Fury, all in all, he's a better counterpuncher than Deontay Wilder. He has a better jab than Deontay Wilder. He also knows how to use his physical abilities, just like Deontay Wilder knows how to use his. But Deontay does not do it very, very well against fighters of his own same physical dimensions. This is going to be a very, very uphill battle for Deontay Wilder. And like I said, I'm going to see how he responds. And I bet money, this is my bet when it comes down to it. I bet money that if Tyson Fury comes forward, and I predict that he will, I bet you money that Deontay Wilder backs up. I bet you money that he backs up, and that'll tell you right there that if Deontay Wilder truly believes that Tyson Fury, that if last time overall that his gloves really were contaminated, that'll tell you the answer. Because I don't think Deontay Wilder, I don't think he truly believes that bullshit. I don't think he believes it. And I think that he's living as a fraudulent character right now. I think all in all that he has to impress his fan base, and he has to act all this bullshit and say that he got cheated. But he don't truly believe that shit. That's why he's making so many adjustments. When it comes down to it, you're making so many adjustments. You got Malik Scott. You know, you basically backstabbed your trainer. What the hell is his name? Mark Breland. And there's nothing wrong with getting a new trainer. That doesn't make you a backstabber. What does make you a backstabber and a sellout is basically selling out your trainer overall and alleging something as vile as saying that he drugged you and basically betrayed you overall just because he wanted Tyson Fury to win. When you have no evidence of that whatsoever. It'd be different if you had some actual evidence, but there was nothing in your system. They tested you. There was nothing in your system. Now, there's some drugs overall out there that perhaps overall maybe they could be out of your system within a certain amount of time, but I'm not sure overall if there's any drug overall, at least that I know of, overall that would leave that quickly. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but it is what it is. Who the hell knows? But when it comes down to it, you cannot say something like that unless you have 100% absolute proof. And Mark Breland has a very, very, very good record. He has a very good track record, at least from what I've heard, with other boxers and other teams. It's only you that has been the problem. And, you know, surprise, surprise, Deontay Wilder has been a known excuse maker. So it is what it is. Once again, we'll see what Deontay Wilder does in this fight. I'm going to be very, very interested. My prediction personally, I believe that Deontay Wilder is more than likely probably going to get knocked out within about 6 to 9 rounds. because I don't think that he's going to be able to recover from that loss against Tyson Fury. I think that he's going to try to make certain adaptations, but I think in the long run, I don't know how much it's really going to help him. Because once again, and certain people may disagree, excuse me, but once again, to me, this is like training George Foreman to outbox Muhammad Ali. Or this would basically be like Nonito Donaire taking an immediate rematch with Guillermo Rigondeaux, and basically they say, well, you know what? We're going to outbox him this time. You know, that's usually not going to work, because even though Nonito Donaire, he had exceptional power and he was an exceptional athlete, Guillermo Rigondeaux just had so many advantages over him. He was quicker. He had better feet when it came down to it. And on top of that, he could have power that competed with Nonito Donaire. Nonito Donaire would have not beat Guillermo Rigondeaux had they had an immediate rematch. If you want to beat someone eventually, especially someone that has your number like that, I believe that you have to update your resume. I think all in all that you have to get a completely new corner and not just get rid of Mark Breland. But when it comes down to the overall, on top of that, I think you have to be very realistic. And Deontay Wilder has not always been that. And when it comes down to the overall, bottom line is also this. I think that all in all, it would help Deontay Wilder to face some other boxers and then later on face Tyson Fury. I don't think that taking this third fight immediately was the greatest thing for him. I understand why he's doing it, but I don't necessarily think that that's the greatest move. Once again, that would be like Conor McGregor getting an immediate rematch against Khabib Nurmagomedov and saying, well, you know what? I want to beat you. It just does not happen that way. When it comes down to it, it does not happen that way. But we'll see what happens. I personally believe, excuse me, once again, that Tyson Fury, that he's going to win this fight, and I believe that he's going to stop him. But we'll see overall what happens. Anyways, that's my prediction. That is pretty much my breakdown. And we'll see what happens. Once again, a lot of people are talking Deontay Wilder up right now. I want to see if he's as confident as a lot of people are alleging. Because Deontay Wilder, he's kind of shown me some signs. I remember overall he said that he has to be very, very calm heading into this fight. And I agree, you have to be calm heading into every fight. But the fact that he kind of insinuated that kind of tells me that he has some nerves heading into this fight and he's feeling a lot of the pressure. So I need to see how Deontay Wilder, I need to see how he reacts in this fight. And it's going to be very, very interesting. I'm also going to be very interested to see how Anthony Joshua reacts to the Alexander Usyk loss. Because both of those guys, they're really at a crossroads right now. Excuse me. So we'll see what happens once again. But anyways, that is pretty much my final breakdown. That is my final saying heading into this fight. We'll see what happens, and I'll talk to you all later.